Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another one of my YouTube presentaciones. Today, I want to talk to you about the power of the hypnotic rhythm when we apply it to our study habits. And one way that we can learn this English together is creating a habit loop through this hypnotic rhythm. So when I think of rhythm like drums, drum rhythm, boom, bap, boom, boom, bap. When the drummer gets in that rhythm and you start feeling that flow, there's basically no stopping you. And we really get into the groove. And that's what we need to do with your English learning, study habits, which you're going to do on a daily basis. So before we jump into how we can apply these principles to your daily routine, let's understand what hypnotic rhythm and this habit loop is. Hypnotic rhythm refers to creating consistent and engaging routines, daily routines. It's characterized by repetition. And repetition, if we do it correctly, if we repeat a cycle correctly, we get into this habit loop, which is very important. We have to understand that this repetition needs to be positive. In other words, we're going to find joy and happiness in studying English. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about three elements in this habit loop, in this hypnotic rhythm. These three elements are a cue, which we can also call a trigger. So it would be a cue, the work we're going to do, which we can call a routine. A routine is basically a sequence of events. And the routine would be, let's think of this like this: trigger, something that gets us in motion. And the routine would be the action, which would basically mean opening an English book, a vocabulary book, learning new vocabulary. A cue, a trigger. Coffee, for me, is a trigger. I pick up my coffee and I know that I have to react to picking up the coffee in my mind. And so I turn on my computer and I go to a YouTube channel and I start shadowing, Italian in this case. Shadowing the Italian language is the outcome of the trigger. And the third element to this habit loop is a reward. So before we jump into applying this principle of habit loop or understanding the habit loop, we have to understand what a habit loop means and what hypnotic rhythm means. So hypnotic rhythm refers to creating a consistent and engaging routine. So consistency is the key, especially when we really want to achieve something. Being consistent. 20 minutes a day done correctly is enough time to learn almost anything. 1 hour is ideal, but you can burn out if you begin with 1 hour. So I recommend the consistent part to be 20 minutes. So we're going to do 20 minutes study habit every day. Within those 20 minutes of study habit, we can open a book and read it. Fiction. Very important that it's fiction. We're also going to take notes when we're reading this fiction book. What notes are we going to take when we're reading this fiction book? We're going to highlight or circle or make note of new vocabulary. Also very important is the phrasal verbs. We need to look for phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are very important. I won't go into it, what phrasal verbs are now. You can look that up, although I will in future videos. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those future videos. And that's what we're going to get out of reading. So that would be day number one. Let's start with a routine. Let's come up with a routine. Day number one, reading fiction. Excellent. Day number two, shadowing. Shadowing, basically, that means we're going to imitate a video that we find on on social media or the internet or a movie or what have you. And we're going to imitate it exactly like we hear it. So that requires no subtitles, and that requires you listen to one sentence, and you can slow it down. You listen to one sentence 5, 6, 7 times, and you loop that one sentence. And if you're developing your listening skills, if your listening skills are poor, what I want you to do with the shadowing, as you listen to that one sentence, I want you to have a pencil and paper, and I want you to write down what you hear, not what you read. You're going to stay away from reading, so no subtitles at the beginning of that one sentence. Now, when you no longer understand, or you've written most of the sentence down, but you no longer understand 1 or 2 words, turn the subtitles on. The subtitles are the transcripts. The subtitles are also, we call them subtitles. Most of my students, they just say, oh, the words on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, the words on the bottom of the screen. Those are subtitles, or you could call them transcript. You pop on those subtitles, and you just correct any mistakes, or you just add whatever words you fail to understand. Then you take the subtitles off. You take them off, and you continue to listen to the same sentence. But only this time, you're going to repeat exactly how you hear it. What does exactly mean? Exactly means the rhythm, the tone, the pitch. Okay? So we're going to avoid sounding like a robot, and we're going to try and emulate, imitate, copy, shadow what we hear.
Qualche tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata con Graziana e Rocco.
Che tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata con Graziana e Rocco e oggi con un po' di ritardo ve la propongo.
Oggi con un po' di ritardo vi la propongo.
Che tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata.
Qualche tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata.
Che tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata.
Qualche tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata con Graziana e Rocco. Oggi con un po' di ritardo ve la propongo.
Chi di voi impara l'italiano probabilmente conosce il canale YouTube L'Ernamo di Graziana e Rocco.
Chi di voi impara l'italiano probabilmente conosce il canale YouTube L'Ernamo di Graziana e Rocco. De dove siete? Come vi siete con?
Ebbene, di dove siete e come vi siete conosciuti?
Come vi siete
Ebbene, di dove siete e come vi siete conosciuti?
Come vi siete conosciuti? Di dove siete? Come vi siete conosciuti?
Ebbene, di dove siete e
di dove siete e come vi siete
Ebbene, di dove siete e come vi siete conosciuti?
Come vi siete conosciuti? Chi di voi impara l'italiano probabilmente conosce il canale YouTube L'Ernamo di Graziana e Rocco, uno dei canali più famosi dedicati all'insegnamento della lingua italiana. Qualche tempo fa ho fatto una chiacchierata con Graziana e Rocco e oggi, con un po' di ritardo, ve la propongo. Abbiamo parlato di vari argomenti, dell'insegnare l'italiano online, del loro percorso, di quale pensano sarà il futuro di questa piattaforma. Dunque, spero vi piaccia, buona visione.
That's what we're going to do. So let's go back to this habit loop, and let's go back to this hypnotic rhythm. So now we have the trigger, or we can call it the cue. For me, it's coffee. Ooh la la, excusez-moi. And the action would be day number 1, you open your fiction book, you read 10 minutes, and you take another 10 minutes going over whatever notes you came up with. New vocabulary, new phrasal verbs, etc. Day number 2, oh wait, we haven't come up with a reward, but we'll come up with that reward after. I won't forget. Right now, let's work on the first 2 principles that will create this habit loop. Day number 2, which can be Tuesday. El café. Use that as a trigger, so every time I have a coffee in my hand, I know I've got to practice. That's basically what I'm talking about. I open my video. I have a favorite actor, actress, or comedian, or what have you that I want to shadow or imitate. And I'm going to run through the shadowing process, which I explained briefly. Remember, I have a video on this on my YouTube channel, so just look for it. It's called shadowing. And we still haven't come up with the reward. But let's keep going. Day number 3, Wednesday. I'm going to practice another 20 minutes. What's going to remind me to practice? Need I say? Coffee, for me. Because your trigger can be anything else. Your trigger can be an alarm you set. Your trigger can be, I don't know, after you brush your teeth. You say, hey, you know what? It's time to practice. Your trigger can be when you get home. If you're not too tired, take a shower and get into some comfortable pajamas, put a reading light on, and get to work. That could be your trigger, the reading light. Every time you turn on the reading light, that's going to set you in motion to get this habit loop going. Very important. Trust me when I tell you, you need a trigger. I've heard of people that enjoy running as an exercise. I don't enjoy running. I prefer staying on my couch and watching TV. Yes, truth be told. But I do like physical activity such as working out with weights. But running for me, makes no sense. But if it makes sense for you, believe you me, I wish I was you. But I've heard of people that love to run or jog. They actually leave their tennis shoes where they can see them, and usually their tennis shoes are at the entrance or the exit of their home, and it reminds them time to go running or time to go walking. That's great. Another trigger for people that enjoy walking is their dog. Believe it or not, the dog needs to go and take care of business. The dog, if you have a trained dog, brings you a leash and says, Mommy, Daddy, time to go take a walk. That's the trigger. Right away, you start walking. And when you're outside, you enjoy walking. If you didn't have the dog, you wouldn't be working. So for me, if I don't get my coffee, I'm not going to get to work. So find your trigger and get to work. So Wednesday comes around, you got your trigger. Monday, you read a fiction book. Tuesday, you did some shadowing. Well, Wednesday, pick up another fiction book. Wednesday, go to the next page on the fiction book. Wednesday, listen to some news and repeat the news. Wednesday, use a translating application. Come up with an idea in your head or a situation. Speak to the translating application in your native language. You hit enter, you hit translate to English, and you write down whatever the translating application gave you. You write it down in a notebook, and we call that a daily journal. What are you going to do with that? Same thing you did on Monday with the reading the fiction, only this time you're reading your thoughts. And your thoughts are going to come back in English. So you're going to find new vocabulary, new sentence structure, new grammar, new ideas you never knew you had. So now we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday comes around, get your coffee. Again, if that's your trigger, because that's the trigger for me, and we're creating a habit loop. Thursday comes around, we can shadow again. And this time, when you get in the groove, when you get in the swing of things, by the time Thursday comes around, you're probably going to want to shadow more than 20 minutes. If you get in the groove, if you get in that rhythm, remember the drummer, and you get in that rhythm and you have no distractions. Oh, that's another thing. Try and get the distractions out of the way. You know what I mean? Your kids are hungry, feed them, and then get to work. You know, distractions, we need to cut those out. Distractions can come in any form. So the same phone that you're probably going to use to shadow, I don't know, just silence it or block the calls because you're working. And those 20 to 30 minutes you have to focus. You know, you can't do 5 minutes and then look around and make some phone calls and surf the YouTube or whatever. And then come back and study. No. It's 20 minutes straight. And Thursday comes around, you're going to probably want to do more. Trust me when I tell you. And you do this constantly. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Take Sunday off if you want. And the next week, the same thing. I don't recommend taking any day off, by the way. Sunday, you do 5 or 10 minutes. Big deal. Within the study plan that we have, we can also include TED Talks and podcasts. These are great. Remember, you're going to do this without using the subtitles. Why is it so important not to put those subtitles on? Listen, the minute you put those subtitles on, your eyes are engaged and your ears shut down. You can't do both things at the same time. You can't read and listen. Trust me when I'm telling you. And many of you throughout your life, while you've been learning this English, wonder why you don't have very good pronunciation. It's because you've been reading everything. You've been reading every single movie that you've ever watched. You've never listened to it. You've read movies. So you can honestly say, listen, I've never watched a movie, but I've read the movies. Every single sitcom, every single TV series, every single podcast. Anytime you put on the subtitles, you are shutting your ears down. And you will never hear how Americans or native speakers, let's say native English speakers, how we connect words, how we pronounce the words, the rhythm, the tone, the pitch. You will never hear any of this. You'll never hear contractions. You'll never hear reduction with the T's, the flap T, the stop T, the glottal T, because you're reading. And the minute you start reading, your mind takes over and you read the way you think English should be pronounced. So anytime that you're watching something, take the subtitles off. Yeah, do yourself a favor. It ain't going to hurt me if you don't do it. It's going to hurt you. Trust me. So we haven't spoken about the reward yet. But the minute we have a strong reward, you're more than likely to repeat the habit loop. So that means Monday, after you get your reward, Tuesday comes around, you're going to think of your reward. So you can't give yourself the reward unless you finish the habit. You see what I'm saying? The habit loop is the cue, the action, and the reward. And once you get that reward, it better be a good reward. I mean, let's think of some good rewards. Ice cream. Go out for ice cream. Yeah, you might get fat, but whatever. Another reward. How about you really enjoy walking or you really enjoy jogging? Let's say that this is your passion. So guess what? Before you go jogging or running, you have to do 20 minutes of English. Okay? So we have the cue or the trigger, coffee. The action, shadow, reading, listening to podcasts, writing a story, using the translating application to create a story or to create a situation. And then the reward, put your tennis shoes on, your sneakers, your running shoes, and you go out for a walk and you feel good about yourself. And if you really want to take it to the next level, when you go walking or jogging, listen to the same podcast again in English. Obviously, you're not going to be looking at the subtitles because you'll crash into something, right? So, we harness the power of hypnotic rhythm and habit loops, and we can create a strong foundation for learning and we can make English a part of our daily lives. So that's what it is. We are making English a part of our daily lives. Because, listen, unless you're surrounded by American people, and I mean North American, okay? Canadians and North Americans, unless you're surrounded by those people, me being one of them, you will not learn English because you're not surrounded by those people, because you're in a foreign country most likely, right? Or maybe you live in the United States, but you're surrounded by people that speak your native language. There's nothing wrong with that, of course. Before I went to kindergarten, I only spoke Spanish, even though I lived in the United States, and I thought Spanish was what you spoke in the United States. And the minute I went to kindergarten at 5 years old, I do not know how I did it, but I was in shock that the language I thought was the only language was no longer the language, and nobody understood a darn thing I said. Yes, it was traumatizing, and yes, I got help at the school, and the English environment began when I entered kindergarten. So you might not have that luxury, so you have to create your own English environment. Your cell phone has to be in English. Your computer has to be in English. The shows you watch have to be in English. No subtitles. The songs you listen to have to be in English. Your thoughts, start trying to think in English. Oh, this is very difficult. But the more you surround yourself with this habit loop, you'll start dreaming in English. And when you do, you'll remember this video. So that's it, my friends. I am out. And I'll see you on the other side. Chop, chop, chop. Let's go.